so many mosquito bites. They itch so bad. Hello from Belize. I have been here now for almost 2 months. It's August 19th now, and I got here June 25th. Or June 26th actually, and I just want to go over the events that have happened in the last month and a half, which to me feels like it's been 6 months. My perception of time has changed so much, and for the first 2 weeks I could have swore I've been here a year. I'm doing better now. Things are moving at a regular pace. I've adjusted, but it was hard initially. So in chronological order: staging, coming to country, our first week, our first host family and language assignment, and now we just got back from site visit, so I want to go over site assignment and site visit. So I was stoked for staging. I was finally able to put some faces to names that I had recognized from our first phone visit with each other. So I didn't know any of my cohort and was really nervous to meet them. So staging is what takes place prior to our flight to country. So I flew from Colorado to Florida, and all of the trainees flew from all over the states. We have a really diverse group, so we all met up in Miami for our staging, which is a day-long event where we just did icebreakers, we went over policies, kind of like a job orientation, I would say, if I could compare it to anything. We all went out to dinner that evening together and kind of broke the ice a little further. It was a lot less structured than what took place during the day, and heard about each other's backgrounds, where we were coming from, loosened up a little bit, and then we flew out from Miami to Belize really early in the morning. I think, if I remember, we left by 5 a.m. and then we were in Belize by 11 a.m. So before I knew it, we were setting foot in country, and it was very movie-like. Stepping off the plane, flying in, I remember seeing the jungle and the water, and we were so excited. So we set foot. First thing that hit me was all of the humidity. And then we all departed for the hotel. We stayed there for the first week. So our first week was it almost felt like a vacation because we had stayed at a hotel. We had breakfast every morning together. We commuted to training headquarters by foot. We got into a little routine the first week together, and it was the honeymoon phase. I was able to talk to family back home, let them know I was safe. Everything was so new. You're just taking so many new things in, meeting new friends. It was a really big high. I was so happy to be in country. And then the first week we did a series of interviews. They call them technical interviews, and they just get to know you better. They go over your aspiration statement that you submit before you even come to staging. They get to know you and your background more. We talked about our education, work history, what we like to do, mentioned which language we wanted. So of the languages to be learned, there was Creole, which is pretty unique to Belize. I hadn't heard of it before I came to Belize. And then Quechua, which is a Maya language, and then Spanish. I really pushed for Spanish. I mentioned it multiple times in my interview, and within the first couple of weeks we were assigned a language. I luckily was assigned Spanish with a majority of the group, and then there was 2 smaller groups that were assigned Quechua and Creole. So everyone was really thrilled with their language. We were super excited. The next event to take place was our first host family that would house you during training. So again, we didn't really have a say in choosing the family. We were just assigned a family. We were given a little description of this family size, how long they've lived in the current village that we're in, how many kids they have, what the parents do. So very brief. It was not in depth at all. So with that, we packed up at the hotel and moved to our host family's house, which is what you're seeing here. This is my room with my current host family, which is very different than the room that I'll be in permanently. It's been a great stay. I have wonderful amenities here. My host family is pretty small compared to some. I have 2 host brothers and then my host parents, who are not far from my own age, so it feels more like a roommate. And the purpose of the host family is to help integrate volunteers into culture and practice language. So my host mom only speaks to me in Spanish, and my host brothers know some English but mostly Spanish. So I'm speaking Spanish at home 80% of the time. I've been with them now for 7 or 8 weeks. I've seen quite a bit of the country through them, which has been wonderful. I'm so thankful. But even with that, I experienced some pretty severe homesickness within my first few weeks, and still comes in waves. My best advice for homesickness is to not isolate, which is something I had to learn the hard way. My hardest days where I was sick, I got really bad rashes from the climate. My stomach was upset from the new foods. I was exhausted and stressed. I stayed in my room. I went to bed 7 p.m. and then woke up right before I needed to leave for training. Mentally, I just was in a foggy place because I was still really attached to my home in the States and being home, and to my family. And since I have internet in my current house, I was able to kind of keep up through social media with people back home, which did not help at all. Because being so far away and not being able to interact with my friends at home and my family, but watching it made it extremely difficult for me to just get on with what I was currently doing. I had to have a conversation with my host parents. They just could not understand the extent of my homesickness, and they really wanted to see me happy, and probably felt like it was something wrong with my current situation, which was not the case. It was entirely personal. But nonetheless, we had to have that conversation, and they really encouraged me to get out more, which is interesting because back home I was out all the time. I was either working or with friends or getting out with family. I was never isolated, so it was pretty uncharacteristic of me to isolate, but it was how I coped with what I was feeling, and I learned from it. So that's been a struggle, but it gets easier. You get more comfortable with your surroundings and things get better. Adapting to different styles of living can always raise challenge. Just little mini comforts you miss from home. I've been able to kind of evaluate things that really matter to me and things that don't matter as much. Little problems that seemed so big are minuscule now to me, and that's a gift. It's really wonderful. So that's been my experience with my host family adjustment. And then training has really consisted of cultural sensitivity, the topics that our project works on, which is communicable and non-communicable disease, hygiene, nutrition, exercise, and then neonatal and maternal health. So we've had several sessions on each of those. We've had sessions on how to conduct a lesson in a classroom, how to conduct a house visit, how to work with our counterparts. They're labeled and they're just members of the community that are already working actively that we'll just assist with and will assist us in the projects that we decide to take on. It's been a really dense training in a short amount of time, but it's necessary, and we have handouts galore which will prove to be helpful when I start establishing the lessons that I want to provide to my community. So through this training, they've been kind of evaluating our behavior and our participation levels, our interests, and with that they had one more technical interview and ask us further questions about successes we've had in the past with projects, how we rate our time management, how productive we are. To me, it was just a very generic interview on how you would rate yourself as a worker. That following Monday, we were given our permanent site, so the site that I will be at for the remaining 24 months of my service and will do my work at, and the rest of us, the 23 of us remaining, each got assigned a different village throughout the country, from all the way up north in Corozal to their district down south in Toledo. And the staff at Peace Corps conducted meetings, I imagine, that were lengthy and probably really frustrating to decide where each volunteer was going to be placed. After we got our assignments, we received a more in-depth packet about the village, so it was really helpful to have that to read on. But you take that packet with a grain of salt because you can only write down so much about a community. You really need to go out and see it. which is exactly what we did. The following week, we set out for site visit, which it all sounds like we had an incredible time. We were able to meet our families, which welcome you with open arms. My amenities will be a lot different, a lot less, but the attitude of my family members are what will get me through it. They are so loving and welcoming, and I'm so lucky that I got placed with them. So that was the last event, was site visit. So next for us is wrapping up training, and then in less than a month from now, we'll swear in as volunteers, and I will be moving to my new site, my new permanent site, and begin work. So a lot has happened in the last month and a half. There's a lot more to come that I will definitely update and share with you. My battery is blinking bright red, telling me it's gonna die. So I'm gonna wrap this up, and I will check back in hopefully within the next month or so.